Garden City, Kansas, April 1889, 11:40. Sheriff Dylan Brodie snapped his watch shut with a sigh. "Come on, son. It's time." The somber sound of his voice broke through the agitated pacing of a dark-haired youth inside the jail cell, and he glared at Brodie with a look that should have melted the bars and earned his freedom. Damn shame. He's just a kid. His life of crime will be short. But not because he made a better choice. "You know the procedure, son. Turn around, hands out." The kid responded with a slew of profanity, clearly too young to understand facing death with poise or dignity. "And who says you'll do any better, old man?" "Now listen, Will," Brodie said. "There's nothing left to be done. You had your chance. This is what you chose. Are you going to fight me?" "No," Will snarled. "I don't have to. They will. You'll be sorry, but it'll be too late." And for you, it's already too late, Dylan thought, but he restrained the brutal truth. No reason to point it out now. Will turned his back on the lawman in what looked like a gesture of defiance and stuck his hands out between the bars. Dylan swallowed hard and fastened a pair of rudimentary handcuffs around the youth's wrists. Then he unlocked the door to the cell and led the young man out. "Want to cover your face?" he asked. The only response was a rank curse. Shrugging, Dylan grasped the manacle and led Will Baylock out into the dusty street. Jeering townspeople greeted their appearance with a racket of booing, hissing, and clapping. Ugly words spilled from them. "Murderer! You know how many children you left orphaned, you little prick!" "Crime doesn't pay, son, the good book says." Unlike his friends and neighbors, Dylan felt no such vitriol. While Will was in fact a murderer, he'd had nothing to do with creating orphans. That shooter had escaped, while this young man hadn't. Dylan knew the crowd wouldn't care about the distinction. They wanted a scapegoat on whom to vent their fear and grief, and Will had been inexperienced enough to get caught. So he would pay for his crimes, and those of his fellow train robbers, at the end of a rope. The weather had turned dark and cold, common in a place with such an uncertain climate, and the wind nipped them through their clothing, aggressive as the words flying from the crowd that lined the streets. Dust billowed up into tiny tornadoes, swirling dead winter grass that had not yet greened up completely, and tossing it into cursing mouths, reducing their abuse to choking gasps. Thank you, Lord, Dylan thought. At the end of the long, straight street, the rugged gallows stood ready to exact rough justice. Will's steps faltered, and he was forced to rely on Dylan's strength to keep him moving forward. At the foot of the scaffold, a couple approached. The man, young, handsome, and wearing a grim expression in place of his habitual white-toothed grin, held arms with a tall and rather homely woman. She regarded the robber with sad, aquamarine eyes. "What do you want, bitch?" Will snarled. Dylan gave the handcuffs a shake. "I'll tolerate his abuse towards me, but Christina doesn't deserve it." She took no offense. Instead, tears streamed down her heavily freckled cheeks. She sniffled, her short, upturned nose wrinkling. "I had to tell you," she sobbed. "To tell you." Again her voice broke, preventing speech. "What?" Will demanded. "Settle down, son," Dylan suggested. "It's her brother you killed. She deserves to speak her piece." "I know that," the boy snarled. "Let me tell you this right now. Heitschmidt deserved what he got." Christina wept openly now. "I know that. I had to tell you I forgive you. Go in peace." Will stared. "That's it?" Christina is the best of us, Dylan thought. What class? She nodded, words having finally failed. "Would you like to say a prayer?" her husband suggested, hope flaring in his eyes. Dylan shook his head. He wouldn't talk to you the last time he came to see him, Pastor, or the time before that. While he understood why Cody couldn't give up, he knew the effort would come to nothing. "Pardon me, preacher man," Will replied in a sarcastic drawl. "But as it's your fault I'm here, I don't want no comforting from you." Cody bowed his head. "Fool boy. It's your fault you're here.